But I'm also definitely still recording this so that we will be reposting it. And this the first go around with us actually trying to stream live. So I'm excited regardless to see all that we're able to do, because I know we are calling this season 3, but we've been doing this book club for a little while now. And we've read a lot of mind elevating books. One of the things I love about book club day is being able to actually come and catch up with the ladies of the Grand Life Network and hearing how everybody's doing. And it's just amazing because we talk with each other about all the things we're trying to accomplish. And we put the work in that network, and want to actually see each other succeed. So it's just so amazing to see every single one of us and all these steps that we are taking. I am always pulling different quotes from all these books that we have actually been reading. And one of my favorites so far have definitely been one of the quotes where it says, if you are on the path to following your dreams, and following this goal that you have, you are already standing in your own patch of diamonds. And I thought that was just a beautiful thing to think about. No matter what part of the journey you're on, that is, you're still in your own patch of diamonds. So yes, just a little taste of what we do here in the Grand Book Club. Again, every other week, women come together to read these mind elevating books. We did drop the season 3 lineup where we have some amazing books that have been floating around that we want to actually dive in and add those to our two belt of knowledge. So this month, for July, we are going to be reading Becoming by Michelle Obama. And one of the things that I think is so amazing, especially about what we read so far, is when you talk about representation and you hear somebody else's story and you think like, wow, this is important to have, because think about how Michelle Obama represented women, especially black women, in a global, kind of front. We had a senator who was, just upside on the beach, twerking, which is like, something that black women can, do, but it's like, now everybody kind of looking at black women, in that kind of light. So it's great to see others, especially black women, saying, hey, I came from this kind of background where I made this kind of decisions, and this is my story and how I became who I became, and, offering these stories in that. So that is what we are going to be diving into today, because that's what it's all about. Michelle Obama, who also did narrate her Audible book. If you are listening or reading or however you consume your information, hey, that's what you do. I know a few of us, including myself, definitely does the Audible, because I like to kind of digest it that way, and then also get a hard copy so I can kind of highlight along with it. So, but for the Audible, it is also narrated by Michelle Obama, which I think also added such a great touch to that, and making it more personable, actually hearing her story and all the lessons that she was learning along the way. So, one of the things that I kind of want to get to from actually reading her book or listening to it when she kind of was starting it off, and she's telling you, they had just left the White House. Obama, or Barack, I should say, sorry, Barack Obama. He was kind of, finding his way from just being the president. Their kids are grown. Everybody's trying to figure out what they're about to do. And she's like, I got a lot to say. And I'm like, okay, sis, go ahead. Let us know what's going on, And then she goes to let you know that your story is something that's yours and something that you'll always have. So with that being said, she starts talking about how she started to grow up, right, even from a very young age. And where she was at, you lived close with your neighbors, like thin walls, you can hear your neighbors, and trying to complain about that kind of stuff. Kids, you just want to like talk about what you hear and try to get feedback on what everybody is kind of feeling about it. And one thing that was really great about her parents was that they always were instilling a better mindset that to have when you kind of start to encounter those kind of things. And that would even kind of went into the importance of her having her own story and telling that story. Because her mother was telling her one time when she was again complaining that she could hear somebody coughing downstairs, and she's like, everyone has their own history, and that they should have a certain level of tolerance and respect that we should have with even our neighbor, because you never know what your neighbor is going through, that day, or that year, or over a lifetime kind of thing. So, just understanding that. And I think that, again, just opens up a whole nother level with how we start to interact with each other, and those are, again, those great kind of principles that you want to instill at a young age that start to stick out to you, just as a young person with interacting with your parents, and that being their response, instead of being like, oh, yes, I know they get on my nerves, or, our house is too small, and being in that kind of stuck mindset. And so why that becomes important is because then she goes into all these different kind of lessons, like also self-awareness, right? Because, again, I was just mentioning her living circumstances, because it was something that she was becoming very self-aware of. Like, oh, wow, I can hear my neighbors. I'm over here laying in my bed and I can hear them in their living room. And so another example that she used was when she started to learn the piano. And she learned the piano because one of her neighbors was teaching piano. So it was funny because she had told the story about how she really got excited about wanting to learn the piano and got super ambitious and starting to jump ahead in the book and want to learn the next songs and, starting to get ahead of herself. And one time played, one of her new songs she had learned for her piano teacher, and her piano teacher was not impressed and went off on her like, oh, you're getting ahead of yourself. This is not how I taught you. Like, you're supposed to be going by the book and learning this as I'm teaching it. And that's kind of when she started to fall out with her piano teacher, because she's like, no, I can learn this too and learn what you're trying to tell me. And her piano teacher, was, again, old school. She's done this before and had plenty of other students, and understands this is a certain way to do things, because there's, principles and the foundation. You want a secure foundation. So, she kind of talks about how she started to now butt heads with this figure of authority that was still helping her with this craft, because she still did want to learn how to become a better piano teacher or pianist. So she still stuck with her piano teacher. Now, what she did notice, though, come the end of it, is at her first recital, she's sitting at, a very nice piano, a piano that she had never been used to. And in that moment, again, this is where that self-awareness kicks in, and where this whole story starts to matter again, is a lot of things starts to register, where she's like, wow, I've never even seen a nice piano before. All she had ever seen as a piano was the one that her neighbor had that had, different color keys and fading. And she mentions how, you find that middle C note on the piano to know where to place your hands, and that had a chip on it because, you use it so often at her neighbor's piano, but at this nice one, there was no chip. So she had no idea where to even start. And, again, it's the self-aware a moment of, wow, there is better out here, and I am not living amongst that better in that moment, and so you start to kind of question and, just as a kid, again, become self-aware that there's levels to that, and start to become appreciative and also motivated is what I also feel like Michelle really started to push in a lot of the different things with, how she would notice that, and then it would motivate her to want to keep going after that better lifestyle, instead of seeing that and being demotivated, like, oh, well, I can't get it, Instead, she's seen it and touched it and was like, no, I can get it and I can keep getting it. And I think that was, just inspiring with those little seeds that she was planting just in these little stories that, again, she filled with these first chapters about how she came up. And I think, these little seeds are why. And even in these areas, again, one of the pro tips that I put down was, again, noticing her parents and how her parents reacted. One thing she was saying is when she would go home and, kind of complain about her piano teacher, they would never kind of hype her up like, yeah, she's tripping, you're right, you can do both. Instead, they would just listen and, let her get it out. But at the end of the day, they also didn't put out that flame, they liked her to kind of be able to challenge that authority almost and see if there are other ways and, kind of balance those two. So I thought it was very interesting because the ways that she would always describe her mother as well is she was saying how her mother was very particular with how she raised her, and saying that she was raising adults. And I'm like, yes, that's what I tell people too. And it's cool because it's like that's what the woman who raised Michelle Obama said. Oh, she's raising her kids to be adults because she's preparing them to be adults. That's the same kind of things that I've modeled and are doing to kind of prepare my own child. It's like those are again those kind of seeds that matter, because that matters with how you're raising your kid, right? And again, those seeds being planted in the beginning. So I thought that was just really amazing how she was talking about her parents and how they really influenced her upbringing and helped just to model her and keep her structured and pushing that self-motivation, and how those obviously kind of go hand in hand, because she was such a self-motivated child, and it was because of how her parents kind of nurtured that behind that. So then kind of moving along, another lesson that she had mentioned was how in life you control what you can. And I thought that was again another one of those great messages, like yes, you learn the hard way that you can't control a lot of things, but you also learn that being prepared, you can control what you can. And so she used the example of when her dad was becoming disabled, right? And so and to sum up with that whole him becoming disabled, it was like they would start having to leave places earlier because he would have to take breaks while they're walking and making sure that they're getting close parking. So it was like they became super punctual, right? Because of these small things that were convenient for their family, but nurtured these big habits that make all the difference, for somebody that wants to be early so that they beat the traffic and get early parking spots. And I think of old people already when I start kind of describing that, because it's like they come from that era of, if my grandma got to do errands, she waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get ready and hit the road. So again, it's just modeling these small things that you will be able to nurture, and that you learn from those circumstances in life, of instead of being pitied and saying, oh man, I can't go and do this because it's going to come with all these extra steps. It's instead you taking that and learning, and again nurturing those seeds that just promote, make you become the Michelle Obama, put you in position to become the first lady, because you have kind of structured yourself to be serious and motivated regardless of what life is putting at you. And another thing that she mentioned when it comes to like in life, you being able to control what you can, she was talking about one time when she was in school, and they put out an article about her school saying how they were once one of the top schools and now are one of the last. And it's like, that's not true. It's just they were also in such a period that even my age and down would never be able to fathom, of like segregation actually coming into existence, and that kind of split. And again, it's just a different perspective. So I think it's really great to hear those different lessons that people from those different perspectives are dropping about how they came up with that. So again, so she's in school, and they were talking bad about it, and instead what her principal said, which I thought again was one of those things that really stuck out, was they were planting seeds they were planting feelings of failure and flight. And failure is a feeling long before it becomes a natural result. It's vulnerability that breeds the self-doubt and is escalated deliberately with the fear. And it's like, man, that is so true. Think about how much you think about something bad happening before it even happens, and how you just bred it with all the self-doubt that you continue to nurture that seed with. And how, again, even in our last book, we talked about how your mind is that fertile land. You can plant those seeds of positivity, but if you're planting toxicity and you watering both of them, you're going to grow both of them, and you can't have the poison right next to the corn and think you're not, getting some kind of hybrid poisonous corn in the middle too, So again, just hearing all these different people kind of sharing those messages that cross with in so many different ways was just, again, such an amazing point. And then so again, she goes to say again how you can see again this failure is a feeling long before it becomes a natural result. And then she goes to say how you could see that all over the neighborhood with parents who couldn't get ahead. And think about that, how parents, that you end up in that check to check cycle, and it just is what it is at that point, right? What you're going to do, get a second job and still be in that same cycle, and so it becomes that, okay, well, it is what it is. So then now you got the kids that suspect that their lives aren't going to be much different, and so they start falling into that same feeling. Oh, this is just going to be, I'm destined for that same failure. It is what it is at this point. So they're already starting to nurture those seeds of failure before it's even a present thing. She also mentioned examples like when you're watching your neighbors move to better neighborhoods or go to better schools, but it's not you, and you start feeling like, this because it's not meant for you, And then she also mentioned the real estate agents who are, were prying on the people at that time too to sell because, sell before everything crashes, but that a crash is coming. Again, just feeding into that, failure is coming no matter what, so you better get out while you can. And it's like, again, being mindful of those seeds that you're planting. It goes into this last big lesson that I really wanted to put out, which was, don't buy into the fear mongering. At the end of the day, when she was talking about all these different things on, a problem that will pop up, it would be her mom or another person that would be over here saying, despite what's happening, we're going to still stand up for what we understand is right and put in the work to make a change, and it would be something as simple as when they put her into they put all the black kids basically in a basement kind of classroom, and it's like now all the smarter kids that are just sitting there, it's like, I'm wasting my time, this is not being productive. So at this point it's like, let's do something different. You're having our kids sitting here and rot, and it took her mother kind of standing up and saying, I need my kid out of this basement and in the real classroom. And that is how they created a whole system to even test and move kids out of that. And again, it took parents and the adults kind of not having that fear and saying, this is the system, this is what it is, but instead, what can I do to have a solution, to put my kids in a better position? And that's what it was always about, understanding that what you're doing is changing not only for yourself, but others, right? And she said that was one of the things that, even started to spark in her mind in that point where it was like, oh, well, now you have to test to get out the basement. And it's like, well, what about the rest of the kids in the basement? What's going to happen to them? And you really start taking a look and saying, what are some better things that we can do with that? But also, even going into this fear mongering, one of my favorite stories that she told was her experiences with applying to college, and how, first of all, once she, was a senior and actually applying to colleges, what she first realized is all of those fears she had when she first came in freshman year were gone. All of it that she was so worried about, 4 years ago when she was fresh in and actually a freshman, she had overcame those fears. So again, it goes to show why you shouldn't even let those fears fester, because what you can accomplish in spite of them is what, puts you in that position. So it was great for her to kind of touch on that. And then, you get that curveball though. You excited. You got your college counselor, who's supposed to be helping you. And, her brother goes to Princeton. So she's like, yes, I'm this, that, and the third, the treasury, and, got her accolades. And I'm sure she was preparing her whole high school, like, oh, I'm doing this for my Princeton application kind of person, because I knew, I know people that took those kind of things serious and, preparing for their future, and you can tell how she was just serious about that. So, she's telling her counselor, she's trying to go to Princeton, and the first thing her counselor says though is, I don't think you're Princeton material. And it's like, but all the things I just said, that's not Princeton material, because of the one biggest thing that makes you not Princeton material, so, but again, even in that moment, instead of letting that moment come and start to be the thing that comes and takes it all down, she uses that and says, you know what, let me look at who I do have. Let me go talk to another counselor, another principal that I know actually has my back and going to write about me highly, because they care about my future too. And she starts to reevaluate her resources and make sure that she gets into that school to, not prove to, that teacher that she was Princeton material, but get in because she knows that she was Princeton material, So just, again, allowing all of these different circumstances to actually fuel everything that she was, going through to help always push her to want the best and want to get further and continue to accomplish because she knew that she could. And not letting any of those other situations that could have stopped her stop it. And instead it's like, even like when we were reading Tunde's book, and it's like thinking if you had no failure, like keep going, like if there was no failure, like just because something happened doesn't mean to stop. So hearing again people like Michelle Obama, who did make it to Princeton at that point, and even made it to Harvard, and more into her story that she's going to continue to reveal all the things that she was continue to be able to do to become the first black woman, to be the first lady of the United States. These are important titles, because we are seeing it, and it's crazy that, we still have first. And again, when it comes to that whole representation mattering, and these be the stories that, she didn't come from the best area, but even in not the best area, she wasn't on the corner doing nothing crazy like the internet or entertainment industry would try to, put black women out to be. She wasn't, she may have had a voice, but she wasn't, this strong black angry black woman like people try to make it out to be, although you kind of still do get that slight, and that's why she does have to mention it, because sometimes that's, still what you get. But this was her time to actually tell her story, and again be able to let people see, this is where you can come from, and you can still strive to be the best in everything that you're doing and accomplish that for real if you really put your mind to it. So that is my little recap on the Becoming by Michelle Obama. And those are probably like chapters 1-6 about and just her hearing about her upbringing, her going through literally like elementary school, middle school, high school, college, getting into college, a little bit in college. And it's been great, like I said, being able to really be able to actually hear the different stories that she's sharing and the lessons that she learned from those different stories that she kind of came about. So that's actually the question that I posed for the group today, which is, what is one story that you've had throughout your like youth, like when you were younger, where you learned a lesson that really stuck with you throughout your years as you got older? So I've been doing a lot of talking. Does anybody want to kick off and share their thoughts about my recap, and then kind of jump into one of your own personal stories and the lessons you learned from that? Yes, Miss Mimi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So much, and Mo, you just always do such a great job with the recap. I don't know if you saw me over here. I'm like, yeah, I remember that part. So I would say, to answer the question, there's so many things that came up, but one thing in particular I feel that I've had conversations with people about recently is that you don't realize, like, you learn so much, not from someone telling you something, but just from being in that environment. So because her mom was so patient with her and, just let her speak her mind, and, she did what she had to do when she got the information, that she needed from her or whatever, but she had that freedom to express herself and, share what was going on. And that was just a quality that she was able to carry through her whole life. So it just made me think of like the instances where I have caught things from my mom. Like, my mom was married to my stepdad for 22 years before he passed away. But me and my brother, we're the older siblings. There's 3 of us. My sister came along later, but we were with my mom and she was a single mom. So I sometimes talk to my sister and I tell her, I was like, it was a different life. Like, she was single. She's like, we tell her things like, I can't even imagine mommy would even like do that or be like that or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but we were a team. Like, we just had to get things done. Like, this is how we operated. And it was a lot of structure. Whereas when my sister was born, my mom was in a different phase of life. And so, how me and my brother grew up versus like my sister, and kind of the flexibility and things that she had was just different. And I feel like being a part of my mom's life when she was a single mom, I do have a lot of structure and discipline and things that has carried me through to adulthood, and I'm appreciative of that. And even being able to, my mom didn't accept, like, you couldn't just complain.
Right.
You couldn't just go to her and just be like, oh, this or that, and just complain about it. That was just not okay. So she would basically ask you, like, okay, is there something you can do about it?
Right.
And if you could do something about it, okay, what, like, it moved the conversation different versus just sitting and complaining. And when I tell you, I have no patience for people who just want to, like, talk and just complain. Like, I have no, like, what are we talking about? Like, there's so many other things that we could be doing. So I just think of, like, those different scenarios that I'm sure, it wasn't my mom preaching anything to me. It was just me being, her child during a certain phase of her life, and it's just different things that I've like carried through my adulthood. And I remember, this is the last thing I'll share. I remember, I'm a few generations ahead of you guys, but this is when everybody had like chicken pox, right? And I was like so excited because I never I made it through middle school or junior high and didn't have chicken pox, and I got chicken pox, girl. So, I had to go to the doctor, I think, or like get whatever medication or whatever I was doing, but I was still having a reaction. And my mom, single mom, she was busy, she was doing stuff. Why did I call the doctor myself? Like,
I need some help.
This is what's going on. And I'm sure they were like shocked. I didn't think anything of it until I heard my mom telling the story to someone. I never thought anything of it. I'm just like, my mom is out. She's busy. Like, I need to figure out what's going on with me. And I basically had to like give up dairy. I think that was affecting like my symptoms and whatever reactions I was having or whatever. So I had to just like, during that time until I got rid of the chicken pox, like just have no dairy. But yeah, I figured out, I can't even remember how I got the doctor's number. I don't know if I got it from like the prescription or what, but I sure enough like called them and was like, with my junior high little self, maybe 7th grade or whatever middle school went to at that time, called up there, and guess what? I got myself straight.
They used to have magnets, the doctors on the refrigerator. It was probably on the refrigerators.
Okay.
But no, that is so funny. And that's even another point that Michelle Obama made in her book when she was talking about not telling her parents about her trip, right? And when they were like going to Paris, and her parents were kind of like mad about it because she was like, "Nah, we don't got no money for that." And they like, "How you gonna tell us what we got money for? Like, how you gonna tell us if it's in the budget if you don't even tell us so we can see if it's in the budget?" And
that whole decision, my girl.
but it's because she said that same thing though, where it's like you just are aware enough, like, my folks doing what they gotta do, I'm doing what I gotta do, we all just doing our part to get it done, and I'm cool with what that is. And so, I think that even still says something, like you said, with how you're brought up, and even with how our parents, carry those situations and plant those seeds, so that you were confident enough to call the doctor. You already knew, like, look, I need something, so y'all gonna have to do something, okay?
Help the girl out.
No, that is good. And before I kind of ramble on again about my little story, Zay, did you want to add in, maybe piggyback off anything I had talked about in the book, what Mimi added, your own story in your own lesson?
Well, I'll give a lesson I learned when I was younger. Um, well, one time my mom, first of all, let me tell you, disclaimer, as a child, I didn't listen to anything because I really thought I knew everything. And I didn't. Obviously, my mom knew more than me. So I lived in Coney Island. Mo might know where that's at, but it's like an amusement park. It's in New York, and I lived in we used to live in the projects a little further down. And we used to live right next to the boardwalk. So my mom used to say like the rule was if it's getting late, if the street lights is about to come on, that we wasn't supposed to go on the boardwalk. We wasn't supposed to go on the boardwalk because you can't see, and because back then the nails in the boardwalk would stick up. So she used to tell us stories all the time of how my cousin got this nail stuck in his foot, and he had like to get his Bigfoot cut off, like it had to be taken off. It was
Dang.
like yeah, it was bad. So I thought she was lying. And I'm a kid. I'm like, okay, first of all, A, let's sneak to the boardwalk, which mom said don't do. B, let's run on it. And C, let's get back home like nobody even knew what was going on. So my mom worked a few blocks up, and she was, working. She didn't know we was out on the boardwalk until my neighbors saw us outside and I guess called her. But I mean, they called her and told her we were running on the boardwalk. So my mom was coming from work. I didn't know that. We're running. We're playing tag. We're living our best life. Well, my mom calls my name, and I feel like she gave me a heart attack. Like, I felt like I knew I died at that moment when she called me. So when she did, I turned around. But when I turned around, my toe got stuck right on this rusty, dirty nail. I never screamed like I screamed my whole life. But that was like, I felt like at that moment she conjured up that nail to get stuck in my foot to teach me a lesson because everything was cool. I was okay until I turned around. So yeah, I was that's an example of like how she read ahead or how she was trying to do things ahead in the piano. I always made sure like I was trying to do things my mom said not to. I don't know why, but I was just defying the odds at that point. So I mean, it didn't work out for me either. So that was a pretty good story. I remember it was very terrible for my foot, but a good story for you guys to hear.
No, definitely. And so from that, were you kind of like, you going to listen to your mom after that, or that made you even more rebellious? Like, nope, I'm going to keep not listening to her.
Honestly, I was still a rebel. So, like, I didn't stop rebelling, but I was very much, when she told me stories of horrible, disgusting, gory things that happened to family members, I sure as heck was not doing what they were doing.
Okay.
I was trying to do the opposite because I was like,
Right.
After the foot thing, I was just paranoid, so.
No, that makes sense. But hey, that's a powerful lesson too, which is you can learn from other people's mistakes, and I think that's one of those powerful things that families, like if you families, kind of looked at mistakes that families members make and more like, oh, let's share that information so that we can know what not to do so nobody else got to make that mistake. That's powerful. And I think that's, what even the point of today's discussion was, which is, Michelle shares some of hers, let's all of us share some of ours because, we can all learn from each other when and you learn so much even about yourself looking back at those kind of stories and being like, man, what did I really learn from that situation, and sometimes it gives you one of those moments where it's like, man, if I could do it over, I would. But it's like, even just that change of thought when thinking about those kind of situations is a powerful tool in being able to look at your past and, kind of learn those lessons that you kind of missed over because you were, like you said, in that moment still on some, man, I'm not trying to listen. I'm going to go do my own thing, figure it out, So I definitely feel
I like to work. I like to learn harder and not smarter at that point. So
yes.
it changed over in life a little bit, but yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. That's definitely one of those. I used to be like, go with the flow, and then I'm like, no, let's drive the boat, get a map, like really plan a little bit because I'm like, I was flowing before, but it can go a little smoother if you check to see if it's gonna rain before like kind of prepares. So, but those are the things that we learn kind of growing up. So definitely a great point, Ms. Zay. Thank you for sharing. And to kind of tie it off, I guess I'll share one of my little crazy stories. I think mine was kind of the same along those lines kind of with Zay, where I was, young, and I was kind of just getting into this moment. I started working early, probably like when I was 16. So, when you start working, and my parents is, paying to pay the bare minimum to keep the house afloat, and then you start, paying for your own things. You like, well, I'm independent too. I'm doing my thing, y'all doing y'all thing. I'm helping you out a little bit. You start to kind of feel yourself here and there, and it's like, you kind of look back now as an adult, like, I should have just enjoyed that, spent my money a little better, different things like that. But, nonetheless, young people think when you start just doing too much as a high schooler. So, my story, me and one of my older sisters, we ended up staying out. It was like Halloween or something like that. And we ended up staying out all night and came up with this whole elaborate story once we got caught up. Because, of course, people got caught up because people was snitching. Always be somebody having a snitch, and then everybody get caught up. But what really was the bad part was, like, I'm talking to my mom about it and everything, and we kind of have, heart-to-heart breakthrough, because, me and my mom always had a real cool relationship where we could talk openly too, but, she still did not play, which we gonna find out by the end of the story, did not play at all. So it was like, you tell them some things, but not all the things, right? So, we had this whole heart-to-heart, but the elaborate story had already gone too far. So it was like, the last thing of the story was one of the friends whose house we were supposed to have stayed at, mom was supposed to call my mom to confirm that that's where we was. So I had a cheerleading competition because, in high school I was a cheerleader. I don't know why one of my homegirls, I'm like, you know what, you sound like an adult. Come call my mom real quick so I can wrap this up. So, cheerleading competition, we over. I'm home. Everything's cool. On to the next. No. Okay. My homegirl call her. Hang up. We all in the joint preparing to get on the bus for the cheerleading competition. All you see is my mom pulling up to the school like, Mo, let's go. Like, let's go, like, yoke me up, like, I don't care. The little cheerleading coaches or whatever, they're like, no, let her stay. We got a pyramid. My mom's like, F your period, F whatever y'all, or pyramid, F whatever y'all got going on. We got our own stuff going on. And it was like, the biggest thing I learned was, it was just no point to lie. Like, it was just too much, lying. And then it was like, she wasn't even mad that we had stayed out. It was just like the stupid lie had just grew, and it was just like, at that point I knew I didn't even want to ever put myself in a position where it was like, you got to keep up with this lie, and like, if you can't do it, if you can't handle whatever you did, then just don't do it, but if you feel like you got to lie about it and kind of, do too much, it's just not worth it. So after that, I'd be like, nah, I don't lie. I'm not a liar. I do not lie. It's not worth it. And it was just one of those things that, again, I understood. It's just do what you is big and bad enough to do, and stand for that too, because I feel like, again, it just comes down to fear, and that kind of be some of the things that we realize when it comes to a lot of different things, being courageous and not living in fear. So if you're big and bad enough to do it, then stand in that truth when it comes to that. But also, use that because of that, I also did a lot of things truthfully and as an honest person, because I really stood for that as well. And I think that helped me build a lot of character over the time. So those are some of the little things to help Mo become who I am today.
Wait. Okay, so you stayed out, right? And then you just didn't go home, but you had like your homegirls covering you, and then y'all was trying to go off to the cheerleading competition.
Girl, it was crazy because it was me and my homegirl, and she was staying with her godmother. So we went back to her house, and her mama snitched that we got back to her house late, and we was like, that's how you gonna do us, really? So then it was like, well, where was everybody at? And we was like, well, we was staying at the one girl house like we had said, but then things happened, and then we ended up having to come back here. And then it was just like,
Yeah, she
Everybody's
figured that
beautiful.
out
Mind
fast.
their business. Just mind your business.
Okay, mind your business. And so at that point, it was like even I wouldn't. And again, that made me like a controlled teen because I'm like, look, I ain't even trying to deal with my mama and them. I gotta be in the house by 11:59. If I can't do what I gotta do and be back then, it's not for me, you know.
Right.
Oh, my mom had to she had the reins on me. It was 11 o'clock, and my mom bought Xfinity, the security
Uh
thing,
oh.
to see because I was like one of those. I was terrible. You
No.
know, I
Mm-mm.
was terrible. I really was.
Trust me.
I'm not proud of it because I have a daughter. So like, haha, jokes on me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but like, yeah, I was terrible. So my mom had this the Xfinity security, and she would like, get in the house before 11, because then the doors will lock automatically, and it like really happened. So
Yeah.
I knew I had to get home at 11 before them things locked. My mom was not opening the doors after,
Yeah.
and so many times I had to go through the like walk of shame to my grandma's house. Like, grandma, can you let me in? My
Yeah.
grandma's like, you know, you at 12 in the morning. I am. I am. Just let me spend the night. But
Hmm.
yeah, terrible, terrible.
And those be those things that we look back at like, ugh, I was a little crazy sometimes, but you know, those be those
Yeah,
stories that just kind of make you, been there, done that too. Because at least you kind of got that out your system too, and never kind of live
yeah,
like, well,
Right.
what if I would have, not have, and then still is this big old adult, still kind of living on the edge where it's like you did that, you seen that's whack, you rather kind of just find that structure somehow, some way. So, and I think that's what's really cool is all the little stories that we all share, we still were like but this is what I really seen. Even in my stepdad lectures, I pull back and be like, I still get that. Just do your best. That was one of the things he always. Maybe he went on and on and on about it every day, but it was always do your best. So even in the little things now, just keeping that kind of mantra in mind, and looking back at your own childhood, just like you see Michelle Obama can, and be like, okay, this is what is helping me become. And that's why I even shared that one quote in the beginning, because like I said, it was so powerful to me. If it's like you set out to become the best you, and you're on path to become the best you, then no matter what stage you're at, you're in your own pile of diamonds right now. So even at that stage, we were still on this path to becoming who we were, and we're in our own little patch of diamonds at that point. Like, it needed to happen like that for you to learn and mold and be able to share that with the next person who's following after you behind that path. And that's why I'm so excited to be reading Becoming by Michelle Obama, because I feel like that's what she's doing, sharing those little gems and tidbits for those people, no matter where they're at along their path, or they can pick up a gem here or there that's going to help them kind of polish that diamond and refine it, and use whatever circumstances they have going on as motivation to actually achieve whatever goals that they're going after, and know that they can, even if it's become the president of the United States, you can put your mind to that, and get it done, and the sooner you even, start putting your mind to stuff like that, go after it. She didn't say, oh, because she was young and she was scared of her friends making fun of her, she waited. No, she said, oh, as soon as she realized she could, she did, and living in that moment. And again, that even, again, being some of those things we just read about in other books, where it's like, oh, one of the strangest secrets to success is just doing that, actually doing something to be doing, going after your actual goal. And it's like, if you're actually doing something, that is why most people are not successful, because they're not doing anything about it. So again, it's like seeing how people like Michelle Obama are doing it, have done it, and going to get to the end of the story on seeing how she even became who she is now. I'm so excited about it. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to add about the book so far, what they're excited about, or anything at all?
I'm glad that I watched their movie. Was it called Southside?
Hmm. I haven't watched their movie, I don't think. The
I don't know if it was
Obamas?
in theaters or if it just popped up on like Netflix. But anyways, I'm glad that I watched it because it kind of ends. I don't know if you guys have gotten there in the book yet, so I don't want to say, but it kind of like ends at one point,
Hmm.
and she's already taken us like way past. the point of the movie. And then, of course, we get to learn about her growing up, to get to that point, and even like meeting Barack. So it's been so good. And I think the question that you asked today was so good, like to reflect back on what we've read, because, thinking about the title, Becoming, like, those things had to happen for us to be who we are. The nail in the foot, that rusty nail.
That you still think about when your mom tell you to do something and you don't do it, and you like, damn, rusty nail still coming.
Like, we needed all this stuff to happen to be who we are. So yes, this is a good one. I'm excited to finish it, and I'm glad that we're like stretching it so we can like take it in. It's not just all in one book club. So
Yeah, that's really good. I like
yeah.
Yes, I agree. Well, that was such a great little recap right there to end it off. Thank you, Miss Mimi, for adding. Thank you, Mimi and Zay, for tuning in and sharing your input and reading this Mind Elevating book together. I think that is such a powerful tool, like us to say, hey, we're going to take the time to digest this information. How long has this book been out that we all could have listened to it once upon a time, and it's like, but having this book club where it's like, no, what books were out here that we said we wanted to read, and let's, line them up and start tackling them and talking about it, and taking the lessons and really saying, like, let's look at our own lives and what lessons we can even pull from those, so that again we can be becoming who we are supposed to be, that greatest person. And again, we are that at this moment. So cheers to us for continuing to put in that work to be all that we are meant to be. I appreciate you all for watching. I appreciate everybody that's listening, whether that's on podcasts, on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you are. We definitely appreciate it. We see you, and it definitely again is appreciated. We've been doing these book club reviews for a few months now, so you see we're trying some new things. You're seeing our faces a little bit here. I'm using more avatars. You guys know I've been trying my hand with a few things, so we've just got so much more to come. Again, so many more awesome books to listen to. If you guys want to be connected, make sure you send me a DM. That's the best way I can tell you to do it. I can give you the full rundown. But the book club is for women, and we are always open to including more women that want to come be a part of the conversation. Otherwise, make sure you like, comment, leave your thoughts, maybe tell your own story and lesson in the comments, and we'll read it. Maybe I'll shout out some during our next book